Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Today we are going to add a language switcher to our blog. So on the previous episode, we added support for multiple languages to our application. However, there was a limitation, and the limitation was if we wanted to change the language, we had to manually go ahead, open up our app.php config file, and then change the locale. Let's say if it was English by default, we had to manually go ahead and support, change it to French, right? Or any other language you support. And that's okay if you want to support one language at the same time. But if you want to support multiple languages at the same time, obviously that's not going to work. So for today's video, we're going to go ahead and add a simple language switcher that allows our users to kind of go back and forth between any of the supported languages. So let's get right into it. I'm going to kind of start off by first adding the language switcher. So we're going to do the UI first. Now we have two options, I suppose. One is we can put it inside our header at the top, or the top navigation bar, or inside the footer. And I think I'm going to put it inside the footer because we do have a lot of empty space currently. So I think it's better if we put it inside the footer. But if you guys like it, you can also put it in the header. Doesn't really matter. We're mainly focused on kind of the PHP code, not necessarily the UI. Okay, the UI, I leave it to you guys to go ahead and make it however you like. So let's get right into it. I'm going to go ahead and open up our footer. We still have it open. Now, by default, our footer uses justify center over here. So basically, the way justify center works, guys, is it will basically align everything or justify everything to the center of that element, right? Now, for our case, I want our language switcher to be on the left and then these links to be on the right, right? So the way we can do that is we can go ahead and switch from justify center to justify between. So just go ahead and make that change. And if we do a reload now, it obviously looks a bit weird. So what we can do is we can go ahead and add an extra div, basically wrap it around our links. So these are kind of our navigation links. And then I'll add another div. This is going to be for our language switcher. I'll just put test here for now. And if we reload now, it automatically reloaded for me. This is basically the way justify between works, right? So it pulls everything, the first div to the left, and then the second div all the way to the right. Now the spacing is kind of broken now. All the links are kind of cramped together, and I believe it's because of this space X4 that I had previously. So I'll just cut this and I'll add it to the div containing our links. And so let's do a reload. And we also have a padding issue. So for the padding, I'll just add it to the footer itself. So if we have PY4, I'll also do PX for padding on the x-axis. Okay, so let's do a reload. And I think now it looks pretty good. So again, on the bottom left is where we want to put the language switcher. So I was thinking maybe we can have the country flag or the language kind of flag, and then we would click on the flag or the icon, and it would then switch the language. Now to make life a little bit easier, guys, I did some digging, and there is actually a kind of Laravel package that makes this easy for us. It's called the Blade Flags. There is another one, I forgot the name. I think it's like Country Flags or Blade Country something. But this one is a pretty good package. It's very easy to use. Basically, it gives us an easy way to load these country icons, right? We could also manually load them ourselves, but this just saves us, a lot of time from kind of having to kind of add these images ourselves. And it's also very convenient and easy to use. So I will leave the link in the description, guys. You can also just kind of Google Laravel Blade Flags, and you should be able to find this package. I will also, again, as I mentioned, leave the link in the description. So once you open up the GitHub, just scroll down. There is an installation command here. It just uses Composer. So I'll just copy this, open up the terminal, paste that in. And while that is installing, let's take a look at how we are actually supposed to use it. So this package provides us with a bunch of Blade components. And then there are basically different components for every flag. So we're supposed to do X flag, country, and then followed by that country's code, right? So BR for Brazil, CN for China, Great Britain, Russia, like United States. And then there is another one for language. So instead of using the country code, we are going to use the language code. So we can use either of these, kind of up to you which one you want to use. I think I'm going to go ahead and use this one because I'm not sure how they decide, like for English, I guess, British English or like American English. I'm not sure how they decide or if it's customizable. So I'll probably go ahead and use the country flags so I have a little bit more control. But either of these should be okay. And then if you want to pass in any classes, you can also do it very easily like this. Okay, I think the installation is done. It is. So let's go ahead and test it out. I'll just copy one of these. Let's try the US one for English. I'll just paste it here. And let's do reload. I'm not seeing it. It could be because there's classes. So I'll just copy the classes as well. It might be too small, so I'll just paste that in as well. And guys, again, make sure you have your npm server running, so you're compiling your assets. So again, because we're using Tailwind CSS, if you haven't previously kind of compiled, let's say W6 or H6, these classes will not apply. So make sure you either have npm run dev or you do npm run build to compile it. Okay, so I have npm run dev all the time throughout all the episodes. So again, I believe I mentioned this on episode 2 or 3. So again, if you are not able to see any of your CSS taking effect, make sure you actually compile the assets. Okay, so just a quick reminder. All right, so let's do reload now. And yeah, it seems to be working. So now we are able to see the flag. It looks pretty nice. Let's zoom out. Yeah, I really like how it looks. So let's also add one for France. I'll do FR. Let's close the terminal as well. And it looks pretty good. Now the flags are stacked on top of each other. So I'll go ahead and I'll add a class of flex over here. Okay, and we can also do space x4. Here we also can add flex as well. So let's do reload. Let's go all the way down. And as you can see, now these are kind of after each other. Now what I would also like to do is, because later on I want to have an active state to indicate which language is currently selected, I'll probably add a border for these as well. So let's add that as well. So I'll do border 2 and then border gray 500. Let's add that down as well for the French. Later on, guys, we will go ahead and dynamically load these. Right now we have hard coded them, so we'll update that throughout the video. This looks really ugly actually. So let's for now scratch the border one. I'll figure something out later. Something that looks a bit nicer. Okay, so now that we have this, guys, what I want to do is we are going to basically have a link. The user clicks on that country flag or that flag here, the icon. And then on that link, we are going to set a session that stores the user's desired locale or language. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'll open up our web.php route, and we are going to basically define a simple route. I'm going to use a get route. And for the route URL, you can use whatever you like. I think I'm going to go ahead and use kind of like language, and then have it be locale over here. So we're going to take an argument. And for now, I'm not going to create a controller for it. If you guys like, you can maybe have a language controller or a locale controller. So for now, I'll just add it here as an anonymous function, so we can easily see all the code in the same place. So the process is very simple. We can either store the locale in cookies, or we can do it in our sessions. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and use sessions. So the way it would work, guys, is we can go ahead and use any of the methods that Laravel provides for accessing the session, either the session helper, the session facade. Maybe you can inject it here. It's up to you. And then put that in our session. So for the key, I'm going to use locale, and then we're going to store that in locale, right? And later on, I'll come back and I add a check. So maybe we can only change it to the supported locales. Right now, the user can obviously change it to whatever they like. Even if we don't support it, I'll add that check later on once we get everything working. And then once that is done, I think I'll just redirect the user back to wherever they clicked the link. Okay, so we can do redirect back, and this will send the user back to where they came from. So let's do reload. We got a 500 error over here. I'm not sure why that is. Let's open up our .env file. I might have made a mistake somewhere, I'm not sure. Missing locale. Oh yeah, so I forgot to change the name. So our route name is still home. Let's rename these to locale as well. So that's why it was happening. I'll do a quick reload. Okay, so now everything is working. So now that we have this, let's go ahead and actually add these links over here. And yeah, the reason I actually disabled this, guys, was because of the debug mode. So let's disable it for now. I didn't want this to show up here. Okay, so now that we have this, we can come over here and wrap an A tag around our country flag. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'll do the exact same thing here. So we can go ahead and use the new locale, or you can name this whatever you like, guys. So for now, just do your locale route we created. So I'm going to go route locale, and then we can pass in en for English. And let's do the same thing for French as well, fr. So let's do reload. Let's see if it works or not. I'll click on French. It seems to be working. Okay, so right now we don't have a way to actually test it out, but it should be setting the locale inside our session. So now that we have this stored in the session, the next step for us, guys, is to read that from the session and then update our application's entire locale. The easiest way to do that is using a middleware. And I like the middleware option because it's very easy and customizable. So let's go ahead and use that here. We could go ahead and type in PHP artisan make middleware. And this is also the method I cover on my Laravel course, guys. So if you're interested for more explanation on that, I do have a separate video just covering this. But for this one, you can name this whatever you like. Maybe we can name it translation or localization middleware. I think I just name it set locale, okay? Because I'm using the locale name here throughout the entire application. It's also what's used inside the Laravel app config. So I'll just use set locale. It will go ahead and create the middleware for us. So let's open it up. Now in this middleware, the logic is very simple, guys. We are going to check if this session exists. If it exists, we are going to update our application locale to the value inside the session, like very simple logic. So let's go ahead and quickly do that. So I'll just do a simple if statement, and we can use the session helper again. And I can say has, so it comes up in a method of has to check if a session key exists. So in this case, I'm going to say has locale. If it does, then we can go ahead and update our application's locale. Now, for this one, again, guys, there are a few different ways you can do it. You can use the app helper. You can use the app facade. You can even inject the application if you want. In this case, I'll just go ahead and use the app helper. And we can go ahead and use something called set locale. Very easy function, obviously. And we can set it to the value of locale inside our session, okay? And you can use this session to also load something from the session. So as you can see, it accepts a key and the default is null. So in this case, it should be enough for us. So I'll just save this. Super simple middleware. And let's do a reload and see if it actually works. So right now, I believe we are in French. Let me zoom in a little bit more. So I'm going to try to switch to English and let's see if it works or not. So I'll click on EN. It did not work, I think. Let's double check. Oh yeah, so the reason it's not working, guys, is we still haven't registered the middleware. So let's go ahead and register it. So the middlewares are registered under app HTTP kernel. So I'll open it up. Now we can manually add it here as an alias and add it to every single route. Obviously, it's going to be too much work, or we can just add it to the web middleware group. So it automatically gets applied to all our routes inside web.php. So that's what I'm going to do, guys. I'll just copy this one and I'll add it all the way to the end. Now make sure you put it after the start session middleware. So the ordering here is important. So I'll just put it over here and I'll add set locale. Okay, that's it. Let's do a reload, see how it looks. And as you can see now, we are basically using English. I'm going to click on French again. And as you can see, we are using French, again, English, back to English. So it is indeed working and it looks pretty good. So the next update or improvement I want to make, guys, is I actually want it to be a little bit more robust. So right now, if we want to add a new locale, we will have to kind of open up the footer and then manually add the flag and everything here. I don't like that. It is hard-coded. I want to make this a little bit more dynamic, maybe define all the supported languages inside our config. I also, right now, the user could technically set the language to some, let's say they could set it to Spanish, even though we don't support Spanish, by manually kind of, if they're smart enough, they realize, oh, we are using the language / let's say language code. So they could set it to Spanish. And as you can see, obviously nothing else got translated, but the dates did, right? So this is supposed to be Spanish. So obviously I also don't want that to be possible. So let's go ahead and fix that real quick right now. Now, there are a couple of different ways we could store the supported languages. I think I'm going to go ahead and put it inside our app app.php. Now, generally, I don't like adding new configs to app.php. I prefer to create a new config for it. So you have two options. Again, you can put it either inside app, or you can create your own kind of custom config, right? And it's very easy to create a new custom config. You just create a new file. In this case, I'll just put it inside our app. Later on, if we have more localization related stuff, I might refactor it and then move it outside config, right? But just be aware of that, guys. You can create your own configs as well. So I'll just put it under a fallback URL, sorry, fallback locale. So everything is kind of close together, and it's also a bit easier to follow on the videos. We don't have to switch too many files. So I'll name this be supported locales, something like that. And then inside here, we are going to actually use an array, right? So instead of this being like fr, we're going to set this to be an array. I'm going to use an associative array. And then we're going to add all the supported locales. So we have English, and I'll add an array for the value. And then we also have French, right? So every time we want to add a new language, we can come over here and add it to the supported locales, right? And then if you are storing it in the database, again, you can kind of do the same thing on the database as well. And then inside here, I'm going to go ahead and store the country flag code, right? You can also store the name here. So I'll just add it as name. We'll do English. And then I'll also do an icon as well, okay? So for the icon, it is supposed to be, I forgot, US, right? The US flag. So I'll do US. And then we can copy the exact same thing for French as well. So this is supposed to be French, and we are using FR. Now, I think the package also has a language specific components as well. So you could also use that. So instead of US, you would use EN. But I'm going to go ahead and use the country flags instead. So it's up to you guys how you want to do it, in this case. So I'll just go ahead and use FR and US as well. Okay, I think that's all we have to do. So now that we have, and I think for this one I can say supported locale. I'm not sure if locales is okay. It's up to you guys how you want to do it. So let's see. Let's do locales. Yeah. All right. Okay, so now that we have this, we can go ahead and kind of loop through this inside our footer and then display all these countries. Let's add another one for Spanish just temporarily. So I'll do ES, and then I'm not sure what the country code for Spain is. Is it ES? I'm not sure. I'll just put ES here. If it doesn't load, I'll Google it, okay? So over here, guys, in order to actually load our config, it's kind of similar to what we did inside our header. So if I open up our app layout, as you can see here, we use config. We can do the exact same thing that we did inside our layout file. So I can do a for each loop. And we can say config app dot supported locales as. Now we also need both the key as well as the icon, okay, in this case. So the key is used inside for the locale, and then icon is for obviously the image. So we need both of these. So what I'll do over here, I'll do locale, and then I'll do maybe data, I guess. That's pretty much it. So in this case, I'll just copy this and I'll move it inside the loop. So this EN is going to be changed to locale. And then for the country code, now we can't do something like data, let's say icon. This isn't actually supported. So in this case, we need to go ahead and dynamically load this blade component. So if we go ahead and we just search Laravel blade components, Laravel does have support for dynamic components. So as you can see, it's under components, dynamic components. And it's very easy to use. We basically need to do X dynamic component and then pass in the component name here, right? So that's basically what we have to do. So I'll go ahead and I'll type it in over here. So we have to X dynamic component, just like this. And then we can pass it in the component. I'll just copy this from here so I don't have to type it. Now for the component name, for us, it is going to be basically this one, right? So it has to be flag country followed by the icon. I'll paste that in. Now in this case, because we are adding this double colon, this is interpreted as PHP code. So I'll have to wrap flag country with single quotes, and then I will have to concatenate them together. And we also need the closing tag as well. Last but not least, let's also copy the class and add the classes as well. So I think that's all. And I'll remove this one as well. Okay. So this should work. If there are any issues, obviously we'll come back and we're going to fix it. I believe I also deleted the closing A tag for some reason. So let's add that back as well. So let's do reload, make sure everything works. Yeah, as you guys can see, now it is working. And if you want to add, and again, the Spanish flag is also shown. So if you want to add a new language, we just come over here and we add a new one over here, right? So very easy to do. Okay, pretty good stuff. Obviously, again, I can change it to Spanish, French, or English. It's very easy to switch. Okay, so now that we have added the supported locales, we can also go ahead and do a check for it inside our both the route as well as inside our middleware. So let's go ahead and do that check as well, because I don't want the user to, you know, select some random locale or some locale that we do not support. Okay, that might potentially break the application's UI or, you know, just not make sense. So we can do a simple check here. I'll just do a simple if statement, guys. And because right now we have an associative array, we can go ahead. I believe there is a method in PHP called array key exists, if I'm not mistaken. Let's just see, array key exists. Yeah, this one. So we can use this method to check if an associative array has a specific key. So if it has en, fr, es, which are basically our locales. So I'll do the exact same thing. I believe the first one is the key. So in this case, I'll pass it in locale. And then the next one is actually our array, right? Which we need to go ahead and load our supported locale config. So I'll just do config app dot supported locales. Very simple if statement. And I will also go ahead and move our kind of session put inside the if statement. Okay, so if the array key exists, then go ahead and update the session. If it does not exist, we'll kind of ignore it. Okay, the default, Laravel always defaults back to what we have defined as locale over here. Okay, so we don't need to worry about it. If it's an invalid locale, we just ignore it and we redirect the user back. It should still be either, it should still use the previous locale that they have set. Okay, so that's all we have to do. I'll save this. I actually copied this as well. I'm going to copy it. I'll do the exact same check inside our set locale middleware as well, in case somehow the user figures out a way to change the locale to some invalid locale. So here, I obviously want to check if the session exists. And then after it exists, I'll do an and. And instead of using this locale, we can just copy it from here. Okay, so just like this. And I believe this should also work. Now, the way if statements work, guys, in PHP, and I believe most languages, it will check the first statement. And if you are using an and, if the first one returns false, it won't check the second one. Okay, so it's kind of like an optimization. So we are guaranteed to know that this session exists if you're basically executing the code, because we have the session has before it. So in this case, we don't need to worry about any null values, but even if it is null, again, the default is null. So just return null, and null is not a key inside our config. So we don't need to worry about any unexpected errors. That's all we have to do. Let's do a reload. Let's test it out. I'll click on Spanish. As you can see, the updates French as well as English. So the switching works just fine. I will try to manually also change it to some unsupported language. So let's pick AR, I believe is for Arabic, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll add, although, yeah, let's put AR and let's see if it works or not. And as you can see, guys, it did not work, right? So if you want to support it, again, we will have to come over here and add an Arabic support. So I'll do AR. I'm not sure which country to use for Arabic. So in this case, I'll still use Spanish. So let's do a reload. So this last one is supposed to be Arabic. If I'll try to manually set it to Arabic again, now that we support it, it should indeed work. And as you can see, it is indeed using Arabic now. So A very basic thing to do, guys, very simple to implement, quite easy and robust to add more languages. The process is basically we go to our app.config file. Inside our supported locale config, we add the language. Next up, we will have to go ahead inside our lang folder and add a new folder for that language. So let's say ES for Spanish. Copy all of these from our English folder over to the Spanish folder, or we only copy the ones we want to translate. And we again go ahead and do the translation process. This is the same thing we did on the previous episode, so I'm not gonna kind of repeat things again, guys. So that's pretty much it. Okay, so if you guys have any questions, you can ask me in the comment section below. As always, if you guys enjoy the video, make sure you leave a like and leave a comment as well. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you smash that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the channel. It kind of lets me know that you guys enjoy watching the videos. And if you have any other suggestions or you have any ideas for videos to make, also let me know in the comment section below. And I see you guys on the next episode. Have a great day. Bye.